Hi, my name is Cooper Alford, and this is my session 3 video on my financial data cleaner. Um, to start it off, I kept things real simple as I only imported Panda, NumPy, and YFinance. NumPy is a math calculator. Panda is a statistical data organizer that keeps all my data in one place. So here we have defining our class data cleaner as our self symbols, our start and our end. Initialize the cleaner with our stock symbols and date range. So we have our symbols of what we want, our start, and our raw cleaning data. So we have the main processing pipeline, basically the whole process in one thing. We have our main function as a load data. This is what will print in the console. And then we have our first try. So our ticker is whatever we decide that'll come from our user input. We define ticker as ticker history, start date, end date, and then if we have any raw data showing issues, it'll print that. This will be like the main end of it at the end of the code. And it'll print what our raw data was and what our clean data was and show any changes. And we'll have our issue detection and preview. So first we'll have show raw issues, analyze the raw data and show exactly what changes we'll need. That'll print in the console. Our changes are the amount of changes that will happen to the data points. So if we download 1,000 data points from a 2-year data program over, the start, close, highs, lows of a stock data. It'll download all of that and it'll tell me how many things they changed. So usually if it's a couple days, they'll fit like 3 or 4 data points for or 5 or 6 because it's all the high, lows, and closes of that day. So it'll fill in those, and that's usually the main changes that come up for most of the time. As you'll see here, open, high, low, close. For C column, define columns. This just shows our raw data, basically our columns of our 4 different um, data points, open, high, low, close, what we wanted to get, and then our rows are over time. And then we'll have our little basic statistical analysis, of our outliers and low outliers, which we'll need for cleaning and whatnot. So first we'll have checking for potential stock splits with detailed analysis. So this one was very, very detailed. We check for an official stock split columns, basically something that's recorded in YFinance that's like on a known date. So it'll say official stock split on this date, split ratio of what the ratio was, and um, it'll tell you what the split is in their database. And then we'll have method 2 down here, which is detecting unofficial / mixed splits via volume and price analysis. So basically, if the volume suddenly drops but the price rises, you'll know that there was like a 2-to-1 split and the stock is worth twice as much now, for example, let's say. So the average volume, define volume from a 20-day rolling average. Minimum period's 5 for our period, and then volume spikes if average volume is greater than the average volume times 4. So if anything like multiplies by times 4 or any times 2, it'll detect any volume change and notify of an unofficial stock split. So we'll look for significant price drops with volume spikes, like a 40% drop or 70% spot, reverse split, and then potential splits, and it'll log that in a index in our price change, and it'll print that in the console. And then if there's any missing dates, it'll check for those real quick. We'll forward fill, and then basically just like anything from holidays or any sort of non-trading day, and then it'll also print our changes to be made, and it'll show our sample of raw problematic data. So this is the meat of it. This is our raw data cleaning engine. So first we'll have I'll print that our 4 columns, our 4 data points, and adjusted close 5 actually that we want to track, and changes made to any of the 5 of those per date per stock. So we'll have step by step, print that, and analyze how many data points they changed. So here we have fixing zeros, negatives, and infinite values. Basically, any sort of missing days or anything like that will come up here, and we'll want to interpolate that. So we'll find it in columns, go through each day of our columns of each column, and find any empty values and print value bad values in this. It'll only show our first 3 and last 3 dates of the entire period. It won't print like a giant 60-day quarter or anything like that. It'll just print the first and last three to give us like a representation of what's being cleaned and whatnot. And usually 90% of the time, there are no changes to the data cleaning. Like it's only missing filling missing business days or something like that. There almost is never a wrong power of 10, or if there's a stock split, it'll tell you, but it's already adjusted, so it doesn't really change for that. But it just lets you know. So most of the Y Finance data is good, but that's not the point. The point is to make sure that this works. So that works. Then we have fixing power of 10 errors, times 10 or times 1 mistake. Sees a change, sees a big change, a greater than 3 power errors, and a power error is 0 if our times 10 error is detected or times 1 error is detected. Basically, by these ratios, it'll tell us and it'll let us know and fix it. Then we have statistical outliers, like we said earlier, from the IQR method, but make sure it preserves legitimate stock splits. Like same thing here, checking for outliers, but looking for split dates, basically 2 different methods. Outliers, empty, show the first two for low end ones. Filling missing business days from holidays or weekends. And then calculating our data quality percentage. So it'll give us out of 100, and usually it'll say 96, but that's just because of weekends or holidays or something like that. Like it'll say like for I'll show an example, like any known holidays I'll do, let's say Q4, so we'll say Christmas came up, and that's something that's not going to happen, so it'll show that in the missing dates and whatnot. And then it'll handle stock splits. It'll log them, like I said, it won't adjust them, so it keeps the data consistent. And then check for volume spikes. And then finally our results. Calculate our volume change, any detected stock splits, specific details. Show the same dates are problematic and rare data not corrected, and yeah, and it goes to our user interface. This was something that like it took me a while to really get consistent and clean. I feel like I could have made this way more compressed, but for what it's worth, it does work. I know that, and it shows like here for well, let's run it just to make sure it works. So NVIDIA, and this is from 2024, by the way. Q2. That's something I looked up online. There was a known 10-to-1 stock split on that day, and I used that to make sure my data cleaner actually worked. So we'll run that. It has been run. Down here, we'll go to the bottom. Financial data cleaner. Stocks NVIDIA from Q2 is what I selected. So our raw data, it'll tell us the problems. There's an official stock split, like I said, in June, and a 10-to-1. So I'm like, okay, that's great. It showed us that. It got that data, I think, straight from Y Finance. And then this, I think this is Juneteenth. I don't remember what this holiday is. Memorial Day or something. I looked up online. I know for a fact that is a legitimate holiday. And it gives us our simple raw open, high, low, close volume. And if you'll see down here after the clean data, there's a separation between the two. These are all the same, and I looked it up, and honestly, it makes sense. None of those numbers are wrong. They're not the wrong power to tens. They're not missing zeros or anything. Not from bad trading days, and so that's because most of the data itself is already probably cleaned. So it says 96.8, but that's just from those 2 holidays and stuff. 2 fixes applied, boom, boom, and that's from 96.8 because that's like that technically means 10 data points were missing or whatever. So that's it affects the whatever, but that basically means 100%. And it tells us about our official stock splits on the date, 10-to-1 ratio, gives us all our other data, our volume, our price change. 36% was pretty big in 1 quarter. And oh, well, boom, there you go. Minus 12% plus 36%. That's because there was a 10-to-1 stock split ratio. Oh my God, it's working like a charm. And yeah, that's that.